Hello everybody, it's me again. It's been a while, been busy, but Gundam announced that we might be getting a ban list on this Friday, July the 10th, and what better time to just go sit around in my office and discuss the future of everyone's favorite giant robot fighting card game. So, I have my handy little notebook here to kind of just talk about the ban list and the thoughts on the game in general. Recently just played at the Orlando Regional. That was super fun. Didn't do too hot there, but been playing on and off, since it's been a minute, but ban list season. This week I've gone to two locals and kind of talked about and heard from my local community about their thoughts right here, and I think the community's kind of split in between two groups. The group that has looked at the game and gone, GDO 5 is coming out right now, we're getting some new exciting decks, and some of those decks seem to have some very, very good aggro counters. We have cards like the HAL Gundam, being able to do big board wipes. I've seen people testing online already that Maxter and Chivity with a Shining Gundam essentially can nullify a lot of blue-purple's early turnouts if they swing too early, being able to get that AP minus. So there's some people believing that we're getting a new set, maybe let the game keep going, and then I think I'm finding myself in the camp of public perceptions. Just speaking personally, I wouldn't call myself a content guy, really. I like making videos, I got some camera equipment, I like Gundam. But recently, this last weekend, I went to the Gundam pop-up base in my local city. If you know where that's at, congratulations. And there was just a lot of people there, a lot of people who obviously play the game. But I just saw a lot of people there interested in looking at the Gundam TCG, and with the TCG Learning Station, just a lot of people who had never played the game before. And it just got to me thinking about my YouTube algorithm, and for the people watching, I think we constantly look on here and we constantly see, over the last half a year, videos highlighting the state of our game, and that there might be a problem. So I decided to just hop on a guest Google account, go to YouTube, and just look up Gundam TCG. And in that first couple of videos I saw on that first opening page, a lot of the videos do focus on Gundam having fundamental design problems with, unfortunately, aggro decks. Now, I'll caveat, I'm not an aggro deck player. I really haven't been. I own all the cards in the game, so I've played aggro here and there in testing, but realistically, I'm a blocker player at heart, and I like control. So maybe that gives me a little bit of bias in what I'm going to discuss in the upcoming couple of minutes, but just a caveat. But just me thinking about, with GDO 5 coming out, I do think there is a perception that some action may need to be taken, especially with how light-handed the first ban list was with the hitting of Corsica base to 2. I do think there might be an internal perception at Bandai that to get people excited for GDO 5 outside of having 65 ults and 2 different types of SPs, that there might need to be a meta shift. But the question is, how much does the meta need to shift? If we're talking about diversity, GDO 4 has had a relatively healthy meta. We've had a lot of red-white popping into the scene right now. Blue-white has been seeing success with the Victory deck being a relatively full-cooked deck straight out of GDO 4 with the Norn and even Pure lists playing, Purer lists playing Kira. Some are playing the Norn package. But if you want to go a little further, all of them are also playing Gundam Amuro, which may be one of the problems right here. And then you have, like I said, red-white. And of course, the boogeyman in the room, and I think the deck that most people online are complaining about is blue-purple. At least speaking in my local scene, blue-purple is a consistent fan favorite. If we're talking about new type challenges here, it's usually always a toss-up of blue-purple and some variety of Wing Gundam being in that final table to win the NTC winners, and it's been like that probably for the last hot minute. Those are the decks that usually are the usual suspects. Occasional red-white sneaks in here and there, but it has been that blurble. Which gets me to the idea of, let's start talking about if Gundam wanted to fix some perceived problems and kind of change the way the game plays, what cards need to get hit. And I think everyone at the end of the day argues between, obviously, the poster child of the game from the first set to now, from beta, STO1 Gundam and STO1 Amuro Ray. And of course, in that, we'll throw in Barbatos Adapt. I'll start with the least problematic and go to the highest. I don't think Barbatos Adapt is worthy of a hit. Being able to ping one on standing units is definitely strong, but I do think that there is a reason why that ping is so strong, and I don't really know if it's the Adapt. I think it's a card other than him. I think especially with the new Lupus Rex coming out and how exciting Purple White Tekkadan looks, I don't think the Adapt hit would be entirely warranted. At the end of the day, it's a 2/4, and if you play it in any deck outside of Blurple, it's a strong card, but it's not the card that really shines in the deck. It gets a ping here and there. You can maybe get 2 additional ping off early game or set up a first form, but the thing is, it's usually just a card being used to clean up a body in Blurple and set up more pushes for the next turn, or it's just a link to swing. I don't think that card's the problem, and now we have the next 2 problems. I'll go from, like I said, least important to most likely, Amuro Ray. Do I think Amuro Ray should be hit? No, I don't think so. I think in GDO 5 with us getting Quatre from Endless Waltz, we're getting the effect again. I do think, as a blocker player inherently, that there needs to be some sort of way for non-blocker decks to interact or get through that wall and start taking damage, and I think Amuro is a necessary card for that. I think if we take Amuro out, the game pushes from aggro to an extremely top-heavy format, and that also isn't very fun. When you get into top-heavy formats, you're going to consistently see people get into their Wing Zeros, you're going to see them get into their Neo Zongs, their Banshees, and I don't know if that's inherently that fun of a game, because those are no fun cards to a degree. They're cards that kind of win the game if they can stall out that long, but I think there needs to be something to stop them from being able to stall you, which is why I don't think Amuro is really the problem. I think the problem at the end of the day is STO1 Gundam. The reason for that is I think its effect is too strong. I think if we're looking at card design from beta to GDO 5, all forms of AP plus for something usually come at the cost of something else needing to happen, and they're not always constant, and they're usually locked to archetype. Off the top of my head right now, in green Earth Fed, with Diva, you need to be 7 or higher, only applies to your Earth Federation units that are green. The new Penelope only applies to Earth Fed. Setsuna, you need 7 cards in the trash, and you need to attack first to give all of your units +1. Even from early GDO 1 cards with Citizens Take a Stand, it's a command card that I need to play in order to get that blanket, and it only lasts 1 turn, so I'm going for that push. STO1 Gundam on turn 4 being able to +1 your entire board every single turn is just very strong in conjunction with cards like Gun Tank and cards like Adapt. Being able to have a Lifriff wall up, your Lifriff gets eaten, the next turn you go for a blocker, and all of a sudden you block a 2/2, you trade, it's now a 3/2 though, and they just drop a gun tank on you, it dies, you block another one, they drop a gun tank on you, you die. At that point, there, as a blocker player or as any player trying to respond, there's nothing you could have done in that instance. Gundam essentially warped the entire curve out of the game and got them to be able to put additional damage on board that usually would need a better unit or further play or a link pair or a command in order to push those numbers out. I think that Gundam inherently changes the way that the game is played. If you really think about Blurple, if I think about my Blurple matches that I've lost when I play something like Red, White, or the O, it's because Gundam was out. On a turn where they put a Amuro under a Rezel to get those swings out, there is a chance I come back on that. There's a chance that there's some sort of play on turn 5 or something that lets me get through it, or they're putting multiple cards for ping, but usually the games you lose are the games where Gundam +1s the entire board and sets up massive card advantage, which is why I think that if we're looking at an objective hit, in my opinion, which is not objective, silly me, my personal opinion is that I believe that STO1 Gundam going to 2 would probably change a lot. I think we argued that Corsica base going to 2 at the time would not change the meta, but it essentially killed One Year War. I think in a game where there's not as much card draw and consistency as something like Digimon or in One Piece where we have a ton of searchers, hitting the likelihood that you're going to be able to see that one across your whole board is a good thing. I think it happens less often, and if we can see from Corsica Base, it essentially threw the entirety of 1 Year War kind of off the map. I know it still tops here and there, I know it's still a good deck, but the thing is, it's just not happening as much. And I think when we can see something like the Orlando regional winner, who essentially went with no bases, I think we can see that Gundam's ability to just +1 all those tutus, all your Rezels, all your Hyakurins to those higher levels is just so inherently strong that it's just a card that probably warps the game more than it needs to go. I'll throw in a controversial little hit right here that I do think is another card that, if we're talking about card design, is an outlier from beta to now. SGO4 Wing Gundam, I'm not saying it needs to be hit, but I will say that if they were to hit aggro very hard, that card is just bonkers. Being able to hit all level 4 lowers active every single turn is just crazy, especially in conjunction with a base that heals as well. If we look at card design once again, the ability to swing active is either limited to once per turn, like with the G-Fred and the lock-on, and also requires 2 cards to do it. If I drop a wing on the board, it can swing active level 4 or lower every single turn. No restrictions, no HP requirements, no AP requirements. It just can swing into things active. You can put other pilots under it, and it just is able to generate advantage turn after turn. Even unlinked it. For AP, it can crack a 5 HP base just off of Breach 5 alone. I think if it had a lower Breach number, like Breach 3, or something along those lines, the card would be more balanced, but the fact that it can every single turn take out a standing unit and break the majority of bases that see play in this game is one of those things where, if we're talking about changing the whole meta and creating a healthier game state, might be one of those cards that would be up for consideration if we're talking about a ban list. I've also heard some people discuss the idea of pair bans. I know in One Piece and Digi they've done it. As primarily a Digi player before swapping to Gundam, we did that 1A effect, truly warped the ability for the game to exist, and was just generally unfun. I don't think Blurple is enough of a menace. I definitely don't think that 1 Year is enough to where banning Amuro and Char would make sense. I think they're in the same franchise. I think I should be able to play those 2 colors together. And I think that with Mika and Amuro, if they wanted to keep STO1 Gundam around because they do think that that card is balanced in some way, it would be the least restrictive because all cards stay legal, just Blurple gets nuked off the face of the planet. Could be a choice, but I'd rather not see that. I'd rather see Gundam bring down the speed and tempo of blue, so other colors get a chance to shine in the upcoming GDO5 meta would be my call. I've also heard some talk about limiting the amount of tutus that are in a deck. My argument for that is that blue-green Earthfed technically can drop more units way faster and has access to a large variety of tutus, and that deck is bad. I truly think that the main reason that tutu decks are good, we had the red-purple that I think was a little bit of a menace for a while, is the ability to just AP plus things in value trade and just be fast. And those decks don't see as much success, especially because we've teched into red right now. I don't think limiting the amount of tutus is a good idea. I don't like any sort of changes to deck building that would affect the game in that way. I think it limits creativity, it limits people's ability to have skill expression in the game, so I'm not a fan of any sort of deck restriction saying you can only play so many of a certain card. I don't think that that would be healthy for the game. But this is just an early video. I just kind of wanted to throw a talking head video out there to kind of discuss the possibility of a ban list and where we're at. Yeah. But I hope you guys are having a good day. Make sure to keep checking out if you have been checking out the channel. I know it's been a minute. I'll probably make a vlog this week. I'm going back to the Gundam base to go just show off some things I may pick up here and there. But other than that, I hope you're having a great day. I hope the ban list doesn't kill any deck that you personally play, unless it's Blurple. In that case, I hope it gets hit. Well, I guess the O gets hit too if we hit Gundam. Crap. Well, anyways, I'll react to the ban list this weekend at some point. Sayonara, signing off.